was this retired police officer who said one day he had received a call. And basically, this call came in that there was this husband, he needed his wife taken to the psychiatric ward. And he said it was him and this new rookie cop that was working that night. And he was very upset because he was like, this is, kind of ridiculous. Why can't this guy just take his own wife to the psychiatric ward? So he said they pull up to this beautiful home that's on top of this hill. They get out, they go up to the door, and this old man answers. And they said he was like very nervous, very bothered by something. And he says to them, something is wrong with my wife. She was in the psychiatric ward for several years. They let her out, and I think she needs to go back. He said, she hadn't taken a shower or, hadn't really changed her clothes or done anything for like 3 weeks except walk back and forth in the same room. And, she was mumbling stuff. And he said he was just like really, really terrified, and he was worried that he was going to have to use force against her because he said she was acting very erratic. Well, right at this time, this man's son comes down, and the officer said he remembered, he was this muscular dude wearing a white beater, and he had this fresh new tattoo on his chest that you could see was still raw. And they said, okay, well, can we come upstairs or come inside and go talk to this woman? They said, yeah, she's upstairs. So he said, hold on, before you come in, you have to be very careful when you go up there. And they're like, okay, what's wrong? He said, there's blood all over the floor. And they're like, why is there blood on the floor? And he said, well, because she's been pacing back and forth with no shoes on. And she does this all night and day to the point that her feet have gotten so raw, they are now bleeding. And so the officers thought, okay, that's really strange. So they make their way upstairs, and they see her in this room. And she's just walking back and forth. And the officer said her head was tilted to the side like this, her shoulders leaned back, and she was just walking back and forth, just kind of in that motion. And he said they called to her, ma'am, are you okay? And she wouldn't respond. He said finally, as she was walking away from him, she turns around and just gave him this very, almost evil stare. And he said he felt like something had noticed him that was within inside her, and it just sent chills down his back. Well, right at this moment, the son comes up, and he's like, hey, I'm a Christian rapper. I made this CD. Do you want to listen to it? And the cops are like, well, we're kind of trying to deal with the situation. And he goes, yeah, I'm a Christian rapper. Look, I got this tattoo. And he showed him this tattoo. It was like a tattoo of an angel. And he's like, hold on, wait right there. I'll go and get my CD. So he pulls out some keys, and he walks to a door, and he unlocks the door and goes inside this room. Well, he comes back out, and he's like, here's my CD and everything. And they're like, well, aren't you concerned about your mom and what's going on with her? And he's like, it is not my mom. And they go, what do you mean? Why would you call your mom it? And he said, it, whatever that is not my mom. She scares me. And if you think this is weird, you should see what happens at night. And he said, I lock my doors at night. I have a padlock on there, and I also have a deadbolt because I'm terrified of her and stuff. And at the same time, the husband comes over, and he has this Rolodex of pictures. And he shows them this picture of this beautiful woman. And they're like, who is this? And he said that was her a year ago. And they said this picture looked completely different from this woman. She wasn't even recognizable from this picture. And he said at that moment, it wasn't like in the movies, right, where they're, levitating above the bed and spinning around. He said was the real thing. And after that, like nothing eventful happened. They took her to the psychiatric ward. But he said like something about that just stuck with him. And he said he'd been on, tons and tons of calls and dealt with tons of people with mental illness. But whatever that was, it was something different.